Let's talk about the difference between, and I don't even know, frankly, if you do like TV promos, but I've noticed over the last few years that TV promos have become more trailer-like. A few years ago, the promos, we went through a period where they were heavy on using songs, and then it kind of drifted into more trailer-like stuff. Is there a different mindset approach? Are there any differences between doing, let's say, I'm trying to think of a show, but some space show, something like a modern version of Star Trek that's out there that you would be doing a promo for versus a theatrical trailer? Are there differences?
Yes, time. That's
Oh.
probably the
Duh.
I think, I mean, when you have 30 seconds or 60 seconds to tell a story is different from when you have 2.5 minutes to do so.
And 2.5 minutes is a typical length. So I know we're going to get this question later, so let's address it now. Does it have to be exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or could it be 2 minutes, 21 seconds, or 3 minutes and 4 seconds? Where's the range of time, or is it exactly 2.5 minutes?
I don't know. I can't give you a clear answer on that, because funny enough, if I take any trailer cue and I place it on a trailer that I get from YouTube, let's say, music work perfectly with it. It's not that I time them to something, but it's like being around the 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So if you give your intro around 30 to 45 seconds, that would work. Okay. Your build up around 30 to 45 seconds, that would work. And if you do twice that length for your big reveal, so you'd be around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, give or take.
So the obvious question is, do they end up editing picture to fit the length of your music, or do they edit your music to fit the shots in the video?
If you're making like a trailerized version of Queen's song, like Suicide Squad, if you watch that trailer, I'm more than sure that they edited the picture to the music, because it was perfectly timed and everything. So I don't think it was written to picture, but it was edited to music. So it depends on the music that you're doing. If you're doing like I wouldn't say a AAA movie or a big blockbuster, but if you're doing a smaller one, they'll probably edit the music.
And how is it different? You mentioned obviously the time difference, 30 seconds or 60 seconds for a TV promo. So then do you still have 3 or 4 acts? And if so, how long is each act within that? Or do you just come, pedal to the metal right from the get-go, or a couple of seconds of tension?
Probably you go into the build-up straightforward, you skip the intro. Now, if you need an intro, it would be like 2 to 3 seconds just to set this piano tone, like tin, that's it. And you're into the build-up. So you have to condense like 2.5 minutes into a minute. So that's almost half of your cue. And so you should reduce everything. And that's probably the hardest part when you do 30 seconds edit of a trailer cue. That's tough. You'll have to decide on what things to put and what things not to put. Your build-up is not something that you can get easily with just one chord over one bar, right? You need to have it sustained at least 2, 3, 4 bars within the same chord, and building up instruments. So you can't have it immediate. So would you compromise this part, or would you compromise the intro where there's nothing happening?
Yeah. So still, musicians are very precious and love what they do. I'm sure that it's a torturous decision to extract any part of anything. Yeah. It's like, wow, but the intro is so good. I get it. And are there any other rules that people should be aware of, or kind of normative stuff, contrasting a TV promo music bed versus trailer? Like usually size of the orchestra or sound effects, any of that stuff change, or is it pretty much?
No, the only thing I would say, and I was mentioning that earlier, is probably you won't get the same effect. one of the mistakes I used to do before was not to mix my sound effects high enough, because it was like overpowering. But apparently you should, because you lose most of the effect if it's played on smaller speakers. So you have to keep them at a high level. So don't be afraid of mixing your swooshes and swish and risers and stuff a bit bigger. Now for the small story for this downer thing. So the downer is that sound that goes like something is
Wow.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I could charge for that effect, by the way.
I'll sample that.
Thank you.
So what happens is basically that's pure science, but the geek in me loves that part. So what happens is that every room basically has a resonant frequency. And at any given point, if you hit that resonant frequency, you would feel the walls moving, and it feels like everything is crumbling down. So what happens is, because trailers are being played in different theaters and different sizes, you can't really tell what the frequency of the resonant frequency of that theater. So what you do is you sweep the frequency from 100, let's say 110 to 20 hertz. You're going to hit at some point the resonant frequency, and you're going to feel the whole theater moving and shaking. That's for the effect.
It's funny. My wife and I go to a theater in Westlake Village, California called Sinopolis. There's a small chain of them around the United States, and very high quality video projection, very high quality audio. And it's basically like a private Hollywood screening room. And they range from like 60 seats up to 100 seats. And they have swing out tray tables, and you can order fancy food. And you're absolutely right. I've noticed that for the longest time we'd go and I'd say to my wife, my butt is vibrating. And it was always during the trailers. So one night as we were leaving and the young man came in to clean up the theater, I said, do these seats each have a subwoofer in them? And he looked at me like, no. But now I understand. It's because the guys like you who are composing the trailers are sweeping. So at some point, you're going to get that sympathetic vibration, that resonant vibration, and it makes your tushy jiggle. That's a technical term right there. But yeah, you're so right. I mean, and it's very pronounced. It's not like you got to look for it. You sit there and go, wow, that's intense.
Yep.
Really cool. Wow. I do enough interviews and know enough musicians that sometimes I think I know everything. Today I learned that I didn't know everything. Now I know why the sweep is so valuable. So thank you for that. How many trailers do you watch trailers like incessantly? You're just like, and do you ever like write down notes about the trailer music? And do you have like a little notebook filled with tips and tricks?
Of course, and then I'm half an hour before the movie starts every time, because I don't want to miss any. And most of the time, that's the sad part. Most of the time, I've already seen the trailers.
Well, the next time you come to LA for a Taxi Road Rally, if you want to stick around the day after, I can't do it before because I'm a little busy, but stick around the day after and I will take you to Sinopolis Movie Theater so you can experience the trailers in about as good a sounding environment as you will ever get in a movie theater. You'll love it. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's talk about your studio a bit. So we know that you've got the Mac Tower, you've got 96 gigs of RAM, which is pretty substantial. What are your favorite sample libraries? Do you have several? And if so, which one is your go-to?
I do. And what I like most is to pick and choose a few things. So just to give you an example and to be more practical, so I do use an old version of a Spitfire sample library for strings. I love that library because it has the room tone to it. So it has been recorded in Air Studios and it sounds amazing. But the thing is, they lack attack. So yeah, I could probably put my close microphone and pump up the volume and change a bit, but still they're a bit lush, and I love that. So I mix them with another sample library, which is completely dry, and it's the Cinesample Cinestrings.
Yeah.
They're extremely dry. So what I do, I play the same part and I put those two together, for example. So I'll have the punch and the attack of the first with the lush of the second library. So this is a technique that is commonly used in music production, which is layering.
Yeah.
So that's for the strings. For the brass, I also use the Cinesample Cinebrass. Usually use the trumpets, the 12 horns, and there's a low brass ensemble in it. So that's for the brass. For the percussion, well, I do have damage 1 and damage 2. That's probably all over the place. And I do mix that with few sounds that I create. So I can take a sample and then tweak it a bit to make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big hits, for example, the low booms. I just take a kick drum, roll off the high ends, like up to say 150, 200 hertz. So it's really a muffled sound. It's like,
Yeah.
and then I add a very long reverb, 9.5 seconds of reverb, and you just put it into that kick, and you'll have the low boom that you want for your intro, for example. So that's a small trick. So I create my own sounds without going into that. For the swooshes and those things, those are a bit more complex. So there's, I use the Rise and Hit from Native Instrument, and then I tweak that. Usually it's better, especially for trailer music, not to use presets because licensable issues probably. Right. So whatever the synth I use is basically Logic's Alchemy synth. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one called Vital, I guess. It's a free synth. It's extremely powerful. It's free, so you can download it and use it. So I create my own sounds from scratch. I start with presets and then I tweak them to taste. Other than that, yeah, that's basically it. For plugins and stuff like that, I'm a big proponent of finding, at least trying to work with whatever plugin you have. So I don't have an issue using Logic's EQ or Logic's compressors. I do love the Sound Toys, the Fab Filter. I don't have them. I do love them, and I do watch their sales and stuff like that. And every time I'm like, okay, I can use Logic's. I still can use whatever I'm given, and I need to learn those tools before moving to other tools. So most of, like 90% of my mixes are done with Logic's plugins, native plugin.
I've got to say, I just got Logic a little more than a year ago, and I'm an outboard fanatic, and have been fortunate enough to work in a lot of like A-level studios where basically any outboard you could dream of was somewhere in that building. I'm so amazed by the stuff that comes free with Logic.
Yeah,
it's the EQ, even the reverb. There are 2 or 3 of, because it has several types of reverb, but 2 or 3 of them are like, I couldn't ask for more than that. It's amazing. The compressors are really good emulations of famous compressors. They may not sound exact, but they work really well.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. So my advice is learn with whatever you have, and then, like, for example, well, that's a small thing, but I mean, I couldn't find the saturation plugin in Logic. So I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. And I went online, I was looking for free saturation plugins. There's a ton, by the way, of free plugins. But again, they might not be as good as whatever paid version, but that's just saying. So I went back to Logic and I was looking for that. And I went back to YouTube and I was like, okay, saturation in Logic. So, and actually it exists under the tape delay. So you put the tape delay plugin, but you don't use the delay, you use the tape saturation that is on the tape delay. I mean, wow. It's just, you do a bit of research and you'll probably find someone somewhere who did that before you.
Back in my day, we had to walk through 6 feet of snow for miles to find tape delay or saturation.
Don't mention snow.
It's mind-blowing to me how much stuff is out there. First
Yeah.
of all, just at your fingertips for little to no money. And literally everything you could want to learn is on YouTube. It's just amazing. The tools that everybody has at their disposal, there's no excuse for not being able to achieve greatness because it's all there. It's just a matter of how hard you want to work to find it and then learn how to use it right.
Exactly. Now there's another thing. I don't know. I'm not plugging the company or nothing, but I mean, I was looking for a dynamic EQ. So I'm not an expert in mixing. I'm not an expert in producing. I'm learning. I'm still learning my way. But the thing is, at one point, I needed a dynamic EQ. And for those who don't know what a dynamic EQ is, basically an EQ that reacts whenever the frequency hits a certain threshold.
Right.
So that doesn't exist in Logic. I don't know why, but I mean, it doesn't exist. So I searched around and I couldn't find it. And there's a free dynamic EQ from a company called TB Pro Audio, and it's free and it sounds amazing. It can act as an EQ.
And what's the company again? TD Pro?
TB Pro Audio.
Like Tommy Boy Pro
Yeah.
Audio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the plugin is called TDR Nova.
Okay.
I mean, it's completely free, zero, zilch, nothing. And it's super powerful and it's amazing and it sounds great. I mean,
so to further explain dynamic EQ, let's say that you've got a guitar that does a solo and you like the overall tone a lot, but there's, you know, when he goes to like a high A, you know, 2/3 of the way up in the neck of the guitar, it gets a little piercy, but you don't want to compress the whole thing because you lose the impact. So you could say, look at what the frequency is on the graphic readout if you can't tell with your ears, and then choose that frequency, set the dynamic EQ and set the threshold for just that frequency, and it solves the problem.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it.
I guess I need to spend more time looking for the free stuff. I need to spend more time with Logic, period. I mean, I just do it. I haven't even recorded anything in Logic yet. I've owned it for a year. And so far, all I've done is download plugins and try them on the 2 or 3 multi-tracks that I have and just sit there and go, wow, this is amazing. I used to love LA3 compressors when everybody else was into 1176s. I was passionately in love with my LA3s. And I downloaded the CLA 3s from Waves that were like, I don't know, $35 or something. Yeah. Highly effective. And just, you know, if I had a home studio, sure, I could go drop a ridiculous amount of money and get the hardware, but why bother when you've got something that's like 99% is good. And the missing 1% is the fact that you can't feel the knob in your hand. So do you like stay in touch with other taxi members? Have you built a network of friends through the road rallies and being in the chat rooms and on the forum and stuff? Yeah,
I did build few relationships. I wouldn't say the problem is that I can't collaborate, because I did collaborate and I did meet. Well, to start with, my first advice on taxi forums was a taxi member, so I'm grateful for that to start with. Back in 2017, I did meet with a lot of amazing people. Matt Vanderbo was one of them, and I can still hear him laugh.
I know. Trust me, people on the other side of the planet can hear Matt laugh. He's got the most distinctive laugh, and he's such a joyful, happy guy.
Yeah. I'm in touch with them. Yeah, we do. I do send emails from time to time and just asking about them, but usually I haven't found anyone doing trailer music for whatever. I tried several times finding collaborators on the taxi forums for synth and for production and stuff like that. I don't know. I haven't found any members that do that.
Well, it's somebody once told me, and I was thinking about this 5 minutes before I called you to, or sent you the email to start this video, is trailer composition is fairly solitary compared to other aspects, the people doing instrumental cues and what have you. that the trailer thing is a little more solitary. I don't know why that is. Maybe because it takes every time you start one, it's a bigger production, let's say, than like a dramedy cue might be, you know. So it takes a lot of focus and a lot of time. And I would imagine that collaborating is really only necessary when you need an oddball instrument. Like if you wanted to hire somebody to play real harp as opposed to a harp sample because you needed that much humanity in it, that's the point where you reach out for a collab.
Yes, and well, also, like for example, in my case, looking for collaborators, for example, that are good in synth music. So whenever I need a hybrid style orchestra, I can provide the orchestral part of the hybrid. So I need someone who could play with synth and create sounds and sound design and stuff like that. And usually this kind of musicians are not writing cues, right? So if they're into synth and sound design, they wouldn't be writing dramedy cues and stuff like that. So,
well, if you ever need anybody to do like Steve Vai type of guitars for a hybrid, you should definitely reach out to Keith LeBrant. He's most people aren't as good at being different styles. You know what I mean? Like he could emulate a country guitar player and totally kill it. He could do Steve Vai and totally nail it. He could do metal and totally nail it. But recently I've heard stuff of his that was very much in that, you know, the Steve Vai, Joe Satriani ballpark from him. And he's so good.
Yeah. And the taxi jingle, like a ZZ Top track, and
yeah. I literally sent him an email that said, I need something that's either like ZZ Top or Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
And the first thing he sent, I said, that's it. He goes, really? I said, yeah, that's it. You totally nailed it. Yeah. Well, do you need Amazing. Versions? I said, yeah, basically, a 5, 10, 15, 30, and a 60, and we're good. And he's like, that's it. He wanted to do more, but he just nailed it right out of the gate. As a matter of fact, he reached out to me this year before the 2021 rally and said, do you want me to do another one for this year? I said, nope, I love the one from last year so much. It's become part of our brand. So let's not change. One last thing I want to talk to you about, which is evolving styles in trailer music. They don't seem to change that rapidly. I know that people who work on trailers, trailer editors that I've known, it's like, oh my gosh, if we have to use one more reimagined song, like something that was like a speed metal song, and we've slowed it down and made it ethereal and put a female vocal, I'm going to shoot myself. Please, let's get through this phase. How often is there any sort of time cycle, like every 3 years, 5 years, that things significantly change in the world of trailers, your corner of the world specifically, like action stuff, or do styles stick around for a while?
Well, I'm fairly new. I would consider myself fairly new, and I couldn't really tell about the moving trends. But yeah, I've seen trends coming and going. Especially, for example, I used to hear a lot of trailers with electric guitars and rock approach, and it seems like there's nothing of that is happening. I used to hear a lot of orchestral trailers, and now it's more sound design. And when we say hybrid orchestra, but it's more hybrid than orchestral. So it's becoming darker and less instrumental, or at least less melodic, let's say. Let's put it this way. It's more rhythmic, less melodies, less stress on melodies. And coming from a classical education and background, I mean, I love melody. So it sort of put me on the side, like, okay, I can do that, but it's a bit boring to me not to write melody. I like to have nice soaring melodies, and that would take you somewhere. But then again, when you do trailers, sometimes you don't need melodies. Now, for the trend, the like let's say the downers again,
Yeah.
we're not a trend. There's something that you need to have this effect. Until we find something else that would make the room vibrate, well, we're going to use that for the rest of our lives.
Mhm.
The Brahms, which are the low brass that Hans Zimmer, this is what they said. But I mean, what Hans Zimmer used in the Inception trailer. So that's
Right.
probably something that is going to stay until we find something else that would do the same effect. Funny enough, at one point I was watching, I forgot the movie. It was music by Hans Zimmer. It was a war movie. I guess it was 1917. It was
Okay.
called.
Yeah, the one cam thing that was one camera throughout the whole thing that
Yeah,
followed the two
exactly.
soldiers, right?
No, not so. It wasn't that one. I don't remember which movie. Anyways, it was just where Hans Zimmer used the Shepherd tone, which is the constant going up kind of thing. And then everyone was saying, yeah, we're going to see that in the trailers because Hans used it. So sometimes you'd expect some trends that wouldn't come. And sometimes you're with that. Now, for example, for this trailerized song version of the revisited version of songs, there's a good explanation for that, and I don't think it will fade away anytime soon. And the thing is, when you think of trailer music as a marketing tool, you'll understand why we need to use those revised kind of songs, because there is this sense of familiarity.
Right.
So we do connect with the songs, so we're immediately hooked to the movie. So once you can't escape that, you wouldn't change that. So it's not a trend. It's used for a certain effect. I don't consider it as a trend. So it's here to stay.
I'm
Now
glad you
it's
brought
not
that up. When I interviewed Mary Ramos as the keynote for the Red Rally this year, she was
amazing.
talking. Yeah, I loved that.
Amazing.
Interviewing her was great. She's such a nice person and really has a very giving personality. So there was nothing she was holding back on that I could
Yep.
see. And she talked about the reimagined songs. And she said the exact same thing you just said, which is it's the familiarity. People
Yep.
know the lyric, so they're pulled in and they feel a certain level of comfort and attachment, but yet it's a new treatment. So it's like, that's interesting. So you get
Yep.
the connection and that's interesting all in one shot.
So all this to say that it's not a trend. For me, it's another effect, and it's here to stay. So it's not a trend. So it's something that we use in order to get the people attached to the movie. And actually, another trick as well is, I don't know if you've noticed that, if ever you've noticed that when you're watching a trailer, at some point you're out of breath. So you physically hold your breath at the end of Act 3. You stop for a moment. This is what we're looking for. That's
and it's not because I was choking on an M&M. The trailer made me do it.
Maybe.
I love trailers. Seriously, my wife and I, pre-COVID, every Wednesday night we go out on date night. We would always go to that fancy movie theater, and she's like, "Why are you in a hurry? You know, the movie says it's going to start at 8:45. You know, it's not starting till 9. So the trailers. I need to see the trailers because I love them.
Yeah.
There's a real craft, and as a add-on question. Because it's advertising and because you're doing something to manipulate the minds and the hearts and the emotions of the listeners, some people would say, oh, I don't want to do this because, you know, it's cheesy, making music to manipulate people. It's not my art. It's not my creation. And I get that. You know, music is definitely art and creation. It comes from deep inside of people. You don't seem like a guy who feels stifled by working within the boundaries of what you need to do to make this music. You seem to love it.
Well, because, okay, let me rephrase what you said. So what you're saying is that I should create music with no emotion whatsoever. If I'm creating music, is that because I want people to feel something, right?
Yeah.
Be it commercial or not, is to feel something. And my thing, in order for me to know that I'm done with the track and I've reached whatever I wanted to reach, I have goosebumps. So I give myself that pleasure, and then I stop, and then I'm okay. I'm fine. That's it.
Who's your best critic? Do you have a best friend, or is it your wife? Who do you, when you get to the end and you go have a beer in the kitchen, do you pull your wife into the studio and go, tell me,
Yeah,
is it done? Is it good?
yeah.
And is
I
she
have
direct and honest with you?
yeah. That's one of the sides I love about her as well. She's extremely supportive. She's pushing me to do things. She doesn't want me to go back to advertising because she saw how miserable I was back then.
Mm.
My first critic, I'd say my ears to start with. I do judge myself every time I finish a cue, and if I can do something better for the next one. I do criticize my cue and see where did I miss, what did I miss, and how can I make it better. I do struggle a lot, especially when you have large sessions of hundreds tracks, and you have to manage all of this. It's not an easy task. So I usually try to get back, not to the cue, but try to understand the process I went through and what are my mistakes. So that's me. That's my job. I do have my wife, who is an amazing critic. She's a musician, a hobbyist musician. But when she listened to that, she'd go, "Nah, that's boring. Nah, that's too repetitive. Maybe change something here. I can hear something that is
Oh,
going up." So I do have that. And I have my brother, who's an I don't know where did he get this from, but he's like an encyclopedia of music. So I send him the track, and he's like, "Oh wait, it reminds me of," and some sort of unknown band that he's big fan of. I
I love
discovered.
people
So
that
yeah,
know every band like that. It's so cool.
exactly. And he can tell me which track at which second and how do I sound like this. So he's my Shazam, if you want. So if
Yeah.
I am so close to a song or something, he would tell me, "Oh, that's the same chord progression that than someone."
Well, I hope he tells you that early in the composition rather than when you're all done and send them, like a pretty final mix. You have to go back. Um, do you master your tracks all? I've never asked anybody this before, but I think of mastering as something that much more necessary for pop records or rock records or R&B records. But so you do master them, and
What do you mean? What do you mean by mastering?
I
Let's
mean,
be
like,
clear on that point.
oh, okay, like running it through mastering software, like you would with a record, to make sure the bottom end is where you want, the top end is where you want, and adding a little more overall compression, and
Yes.
making sure that your master, your stereo bus level is where you need it to be. So you go through all that.
Yes, but I don't do mastering, so I'm not a mastering engineer by no means. I don't do records, so I don't put several tracks and make sure that they're all in the same room or whatever. No, I don't do that. I just do master, which is basically putting the final touches on the whole mix. Now, what I do is when I'm mixing, I'm already having my two-bus channel where I have my compressor, my EQ, and that's it basically on my two-bus. Maybe a small widener or something, but that's it. So just that on my two-bus. And then I send this to a mastering bus where I put like a bit of tape saturation on that. And then I put a limiter to that. And I have a metering plugin, a free one that is called Ulean Master. Ulean something. It's a free software. You could use Logic as well. You could use any metering. But
Yeah.
the advantage of this Ulean, it gives me an LUFS reading. So
And is it spelled Uline?
Ulean, YOU.
Oh,
Let me check.
okay.
I can check real quick. So Ulean. Yeah, it's Ulean loudness meter. So YOULEAN.
Interesting.
So
Like
it has,
Yulin.
yeah, exactly. So it has an LUFS reading. I'm not that technical, but I know that few things, like for example, say Spotify or YouTube or any of those services, streaming services, aim for a -14 LUFS or -16 LUFS. Heavy metal music like Metallica's and stuff like that, they're around -9 LUFS. So that's the range where I aim my music in between. So it's not heavy metal as Metallica -9, and it's not a Spotify. So I aim around -10, -11 LUFS with just my limiter.
Have you had a favorite placement where like, wow, I feel like I've arrived because of this one, or the thing you're most proud of?
It's not something something that I'm proud of. Rather, so I had a deal with a company in the UK, not through Taxi, but it's not the point. The point is, I've submitted 2 tracks. One that I really liked, and another one that was like, meh, okay, whatever. So I got. This is the only library actually that did that to me. I got revisions, so I had to revise my track, and I went through probably 10 or 15 revisions for the track.
Let me guess, the owner of the library's first name is Dan?
Don't think so, no.
Oh, okay. Because I happen to know a guy who owns a trailer library in the UK.
No, it's not a trailer library. It's just a regular library.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I went through 10 or 15 revisions, and I was like, okay, fine. The good track was sounding still okay. The other meh track was still meh, but it's fine. That was back in 2017. As of today, I've got this meh track placed over 200 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 20 times would be impressive. 200 is like, I'm going to put a lie detector on you to make sure. So 200, that's insane. And not very many, 5 years or 4 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Congratulations on that.
So just to tell you that sometimes the track that you probably don't like or you're not proud of or something might end up in a very good place. Now, I got lucky probably because it was a show that was so it was templated sort of. So they had this small segment when there's this storytelling or something is happening. So it's not a trailer placement. It's in a reality TV show in somewhere in Germany or something, because I can't understand the language anyways. So my segment, it plays like for 10, 11 seconds and that's it. But every time, every episode, with all the reruns, there is this music placed in there. So yeah, again, it's not making me a fortune. Let's be clear on that. But I mean, you never know. So whatever track you do, just do it and put it out there. You never know what would happen with them.
How long does it take you on average to do like a big bombastic action trailer piece?
It really depends.
Is it like, if you're working on it a little every day, is it like a 2, 3, 4 day process? It's not something you can bang out in an evening, I'm guessing.
No, not in an evening, but yeah, I can do it in a day, in 8 hours to 10 hours. I could, but it won't be something on par with what I usually do. I can squeeze. I did that. I did squeeze myself for a day, and I did that because I was on a tight deadline. Usually, I'd like to say on average, it would take between 1 to 3 weeks.
And I'm guessing at this point, you're very familiar with your instrument sounds and you have templates and go-to things. So it speeds up. Somebody who's new might be searching for a taiko drum hit, might audition 20 or 30 of them. But after you've done that a few times, you go, okay, these are the 3 that work most often. So those are the ones that you keep track of and save time.
And then you start adding on your template. And whenever something is working, you keep it, you add it to your template. So eventually you'll end up with a selected sound. So if this doesn't work, you move to the other section. Probably it will work.
Great. Well, Edmond, I'm glad that we got this chance to hang out and got to know you better. And congratulations on trying something really hard. A lot of people would quit very early in the process because you've chosen probably the hardest path to go down for an instrumental composer, other than becoming the next John Williams or Hans Zimmer. I mean, that's an even longer, harder road. But trailers are, it's not easy. And it sounds like you're really starting to get some traction. So congratulations on that. Thank you for spending the time to educate your fellow members. And I'm sure we'll talk soon. I'll see you in the chat room on Taxi TV.
For sure. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me. And one last word of advice, because that was given to me by a fellow taxi member back in 2017 at the Road Rally. So he's into trap music, future-based music. Amazing guy, lovely person, lovely human being. And we were talking where we consider ourselves like the 2017 class of taxi. So we started out like we were together starting out at the forums, at the placements and stuff like that. So we like kind of bonded. And we were talking and I was like, you know what, I might need to change. Instead of doing trailer music, I should probably look into doing smaller, simpler cues, just solo pianos, or maybe try myself at hip hop or EDM. I have the feeling it's easier. Just few samples here and there. And he was like, do you like to do those? I was like, no. I was like, what do you like to do? I was like, trailer music. He was like, yeah, just do trailer music. Yep. So whatever you have, whatever you feel like doing, just do it and do it well. And eventually it will open.
That's great advice.
It will happen.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing this last hour and a half with me and your fellow members. And I'll see you in the chat room soon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Edmond. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, one last thing I forgot. Yeah. Give everybody your website so they can go check out your music Yeah,
so it's www.edmondredd.com. You'll find the published work. That's the downside of trailer music, is that you can't put your music out there once it's done. But once it's published, you could eventually ask your publisher if it's okay to publish it, because when someone needs a trailer music, they don't want something that is already in the market. So they want something exclusive to them. So make sure to ask your publishers before you go and put that on Spotify or any streaming service.
Also great advice. So, once again, it's www.edmond, edmondredd.com.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.